Hey Dialectics, today we're going to be reacting to some news clips I found that I think you might find interesting. Today is Tariff Day, so all that's about to start happening. But let's watch and see what happens.
We start with this headline from the New York Times. Quote, Trump is winning his trade war. What will it mean for the actual economy? We've seen him use his leverage to announce new trade
He's winning, but the American people are losing.
Deals around the world that include big tariff rates, levels that would have seemed unimaginable 6 months ago. Let's be clear. Trump is remaking the world economy around tariffs, something he has been talking about for more than a decade.
Yeah, what he's doing is he's changing the tax burden from the wealthy to the poor and middle class. He's moving it to where more people on the poor and middle class are going to have to pay taxes.
He's defying expectations, and right now the U.S. economy is holding up. But the big question is, how long will this last? There are plenty of unknowns swirling around the so-called deals themselves. Will they even hold up? Many of the deals are light on details, and countries could push to rewrite them when they have the leverage. In some cases,
and none of them have been signed by anybody yet, so it's just like agreements to make deals.
Cases like with Japan, it seems like these two countries cannot even agree on what they agreed to. As far as all of these promised investments go, we might not actually ever see them. You might remember in Trump's first term, he struck a deal with China that included a promise to purchase $200 billion of American exports. That never happened. And then there were these tariffs that are already directly impacting Americans. Procter & Gamble says that people are spending less, shopping less, and only buying things they really need. Remember?
Yeah, Procter & Gamble already said they're going to have to raise prices on like a quarter of their products, and a bunch of places are already saying they're raising prices.
Remember, these are 10 and 15% tariff rates in the trade deals that are still huge increases. Yes, they're not 50%, but 10% is still big. That means that American companies, big and small, are suddenly facing much higher costs, leaving them to decide whether to swallow that cost and lay off workers or pass it on to you, the consumer. So,
of course, they're going to pass it on to you. Always. They're going to pass it on to you and fire workers if they can replace them.
Trump may be winning, but are Americans? What about us? Joining me to discuss, Dan Nathan, CNBC contributor and co-host of the Risk Reversal podcast, and Natasha Surin, former Treasury official and Yale Law professor. What's your thought? Trump says he's winning the trade war. He is getting trade deals or frameworks done.
Right. They're frameworks, right? So when we think about just going back to the first administration, when they first slapped tariffs on China, it's 2018. It was March. We didn't really have a phase one deal in place with China until January of 2020. So you kind of just laid it out here. We have a deal supposedly with Japan. We have a deal with the EU. If you think about those two blocks, they're about 25% of the imports that we get right here. And we just don't really have a lot of detail about that. So what hasn't come to the table right now? It's Canada and Mexico. They're about 25% of our imports. Those are
our two biggest partners besides China.
Two of our best allies here, right? And so this week, the focus has been on China. Well, they're about 10% of our imports. So when you think about the Chinese, you think about how nothing's really happened over the last, let's call it, week or so as we've kind of had these talks here, especially in Stockholm over the last few days. You have to ask yourself, if you're the Chinese, why are you rushing to do a deal if we are not even able to do a deal with our two biggest trading partners, which is Canada and Mexico? So I think there's not going to be a lot of there. And just really quickly on your point about who's winning right now, because the economy, what is our economy saying? Well, right now we saw a huge pull forward. A lot of American companies were buying goods. A lot of consumers were buying goods right before these tariffs might go in place.
That's very true. A lot of people ordered a bunch of stuff early just to get ahead of the tariffs from what they could.
Our GDP that we're going to get a read on tomorrow. But the real reason that the Fed is staying on hold, we have a Fed meeting tomorrow, is because they have to see what the inflationary pressures are going to be. You just said Procter & Gamble. These are staples. They're raising prices. They're passing it through to consumers.
Yeah, all the companies are going to raise the prices on anything. And then they're going to use it as an excuse to raise the prices even more than they were supposed to. I got another one for you.
U.S. will raise tariffs on goods imported from nearly 70 countries. Products from all countries will now be subject to at least a 10% import tax, while others
That's the minimum is 10%. It's crazy.
Will face tariffs ranging from 15% to as high as 40%. The president also followed through on his threat to raise tariffs on Canada, one of America's largest trading partners, raising the import tax to 35%, which went into effect this morning. Crucially, though, the Canadian tariffs will
He said he's raising it to 35% on Canada because of their stance that they might agree that Palestine should have a state. This is just insane.
Not include goods that are covered under the U.S. Mexico-Canada agreement. President Trump also granted
That is one good thing, as he said he's not including the tariffs on Canada and Mexico that fall under his trade agreement, and that's like 90% of the goods, so it's kind of funny.
Mexico another 90-day delay on higher tariffs, allowing those rates to stay at 25% while negotiations continue. And the administration will continue talks with China, where a pause in major tariffs is set to end on August 12th. As of now,
He's got like 11 days to figure something out there, or that's going to be a chaos again.
Now, tariffs on Chinese goods are at an historically high 30%.
There's still a few
Which is totally crazy. A 30% tariff on like all goods is just a straight up tax on the working class. That's all this is.
technical details to be worked out on the Chinese side. Between us, I'm confident that it will be done, but it's not 100% done.
Many American companies are already paying the price of Trump's trade war. Ford estimated that the tariffs will cost the company $2 billion this year alone. Procter
Yeah, they're just going to push that off onto the people.
& Gamble, which makes household basics like paper towels and toothpaste, announced it would raise prices on 1/4 of its products, though it hasn't said which ones. The company estimates that tariffs will increase its costs by about $1 billion in the coming year. Asked
And they're just going to raise prices on everything that they can.
whether he's concerned about tariffs raising prices for American consumers, Trump said, quote, "The only price that's spiked is the hundreds of billions of dollars coming in."
But those billions of dollars aren't coming in. They're being paid by the American worker, by the people who buy the product.
Federal Reserve Chairman was more skeptical this week.
Higher tariffs have begun to show through more clearly to prices of some goods, but their overall effects on economic activity and inflation remain to be seen.
And experts say it's working Americans who will feel the effects. By one estimate, the average household could spend up to $2,400 more a year on everything from food to clothes to cars.
Think about how crazy that is. An extra $2,000 to $3,000 a year just on the working class and the poor, just so they can give another tax cut to billionaires.
I said I was going to do something about the ballroom.
Meanwhile, President Trump announced a construction project at the White House, planning to break ground in September on a new $200 million ballroom.
So while Americans can't, feed their families and stuff, he's going to spend $200 million on a ballroom in the White House. Now, he says that that's going to be paid for by the donations by him and his rich friends, but it's just disgusting. It's just a straight bribe at that point. If you like this video, like, subscribe, check out my Patreon. I have a Discord on my Patreon. Have a good day, guys.